Alright, so we're back in the streets of Bogota. It's our last day here. We're in the Candelaria area, and this is exactly where I landed when I first came to Colombia. So it's crazy being here with my wife and staying in a hostel and doing all these things. It's a pretty crazy experience. After spending more time here in Bogota, I think this is like the 7th time that I've been here now. I think it's very different to Medellin. I compare it to Los Angeles in the sense that it has a lot of like different barrios, and they're all very different. Whereas I feel like in Medellin, it all kind of feels the same. So I would say like infrastructure wise and layout wise, it definitely feels more like Los Angeles. Like you would drive 5 minutes and every 5 minutes it's a different neighborhood, and each neighborhood feels completely different. But I would say culture wise, it's not like LA. I feel like Medellin is more like LA culture wise. Yeah, the people here are a lot more cold. Everybody's just like always in a rush to get somewhere. I don't know, we've met some pretty cool people here in Bogota, and I feel like there's a lot more to do here than there is in Medellin. Bogota is actually a really beautiful city. Yesterday we were walking around Candelaria at night, Champañero at night as well, and they're both like super pretty. They have like really cool monuments. It's a little more spread out. It's really nice to walk, and I honestly think, yeah, it is more beautiful than Medellin as far as like the city's concerned. But I think Medellin is just a beautiful city because the sun and being surrounded with all the trees and the views. But as far as like the city is and things to do in the city, I think Bogota is actually more exciting. So Bogota has a ton of like historical places like this that I feel like Medellin doesn't quite have, and they're littered all across the city, and there's like a ton of them. We were talking to the taxi driver. He said there's like 53 different like tourist spots here. But when you're driving through the city, there's just a lot of really cool landmarks like this, which is nice. Palacio de Justicia that they still haven't finished. But yeah, very beautiful, very beautiful. As far as safety is concerned, I feel like it's pretty much the same as Medellin. I've actually heard that most dangerous city is Cali. Like Cali is way worse than Medellin and Bogota. I haven't been to Cali yet, so I'll need to go to check it out for myself. When I'm here in Bogota, I feel like the overall like day to day, I don't feel super unsafe like I do in Medellin. The really sketchy areas in Bogota are really bad. Like people get killed, the prostitution's really bad, the drugs are really bad. There's just a lot more intense in those areas. But it's only really specific areas. Just generally walking around in Bogota, I don't feel totally unsafe. So something that I noticed here is that the style is a little more modest, but there's a lot of people that have like the goth style walking around. It's something you don't really see quite as much as Medellin, but here is definitely pretty common. But also something else is I feel like the women here are just not as feminine as the Paisa women. When you go to Medellin, you get so skewed because the women there are very beautiful. Just even the coffee region like Pereira, Manizales, I just don't see that same feminine energy that, you know, people always talk about for Colombian women. Today is Sunday, right? And because of that, the streets are pretty empty. And it's nice that there are police everywhere at every corner, at least in this area. So I think that's also another reason why I feel very safe. But in general, the traffic in Bogota is crazy, man. For the amount of people that are here, the roads are relatively small, and there's a lot of construction being done everywhere. If you guys can leave on like a Sunday, Sunday is always the best because trying to get anywhere in the city or trying to leave the city is just way easier because the traffic is such a pain in the butt. Even though Bogota's a lot bigger, I think it just stresses out the people a lot more. One thing Medellin is better at though is the public transportation. Public transportation in Bogota is pretty trash. It's because the city is so big. You have the Transmilenio, but you still have to walk quite a bit to get anywhere. Where I feel like in Medellin, practically it's made really well with the metro in the middle and all the buses going up, and then you have to take a taxi to if you need to go other places. I read somewhere that the listed population of Bogota is 8 million people, but with all the people that are not documented, it's actually closer to like 12 million people. So you can see it. It feels like there's a lot of people here, but it just doesn't feel as congested as it does in Medellin. There are a lot of foreigners here, especially in this Candelaria area. I feel like in Medellin, Poblado, you find a good mix of foreigners that live there and are just backpacking through. But I feel like most of the foreigners that I've seen here are backpackers, or people that are just traveling through. When we were in a Korean restaurant, we met this family that teach here and they live here, but for the most part, I feel like most of the people visiting Bogota, yeah, they don't live here. Most of the expats go to Medellin. So if you were to pick between Bogota and Medellin, it really depends on what you're looking for. I think right now Medellin is very oversaturated with foreigners, but the weather's really nice. That's where like the bigger expat community is. Whereas I feel like in Bogota, there's a lot more things to do. There's a lot more nice restaurants. It's a more developed city because it's a capital. But me personally, I don't like either of them to live. I like visiting both of them. Nowadays, I would rather go to Bogota, I guess, to visit more. And then if I were in Medellin, I would only really go to like eat and say what's up to my friends. To compare like the nice areas of Bogota and Medellin, I actually think Champañero is nicer than Poblado. Poblado is really big. There's a lot of things to do there, but I think it's just been oversaturated with tourists. Whereas I feel like Champañero it reminds me of like Beverly Hills, Hollywood, like that kind of area in Los Angeles. But I would say like Laureles and Medellin is still really nice. But if I were to compare all of those, I think Laureles is probably the nicest, and Champañero is up there as one of the nicest as well. Candelaria is pretty cool. There's a lot of things to do and a lot of things to see, but I really like Champañero a lot. But I feel like both of those cities are pretty intense. But let me know what you guys think.